Right, it is the 17th day of the month of when? Which month is it? It is definitely almost mid of the year. It is the month of May, of course, coming to you live from the capital city of Rwanda, that is Kigali, and our command center right here at the Rwanda television studios. My name, as always, is Eugene Anangwe. It is another Wednesday where we get to talk about serious matters, matters that concern you, matters that are close to your heart, matters that are so important that require us to actually bring right here on our sitting on the summit. Remember, we are scaling heights to be able to make you be part of these major conversations. Tonight on the program, we're talking about a very important matter, and that is one of the most basic and most important human rights. Of course, it is something to do with housing. It has something to do with affordable housing. That's the question we're asking ourselves tonight. What is affordable housing, by the way? First of all, we'll be able to delve into that particular conversation, and I have a very important panel that is right here with us. And just first of all, let me bring in Mickey, who is joining us all the way from the United States of America. Mickey, thank you so much for making time and being part of the conversation tonight. Can you hear me, Mickey? I just want to be sure. All right, so as we fix that, I'm going to introduce our panelists who are right here in studio with us. They are amazing people. They have also had a very keen concern, especially when it comes to the issues of housing. I'll be telling you more about them right here on the show. But before we do that, I always say that this is your show. You get to actually call the shots right here by sharing your views, sharing your thoughts, and the hashtag to follow, as always, is the Summit RW. Let's quickly take a look at what you've been saying right here on the Summit. I have Willie Rukundo, who actually made serious and very important conversations or points right here on the show, and he was actually saying, what is affordable housing anyway? Will this mean owning a house or affording to rent a house? From there, the debate can roll on, looking at people's incomes vis-a-vis that animal affordable housing. And you can compare to other parts of the world and government policies in place. It's a very important point right there, and we want to be able to understand affordable housing from that basic perspective. I have T. Shingiro, who actually says developers target on high income and diaspora people. So-called affordable homes are too expensive for the majority of Rwandans. We have developers right here on the show tonight. We'll be able to hear their take on this particular issue on targeting diaspora and those who have high income and therefore leaving behind those who probably cannot be able to afford. That's a very important point right there. Another one here is on the demand side now. Are there some real measures to support home buyers, like certain banks providing loans at very low interest rates to facilitate low-income earners to access the loans and buy homes? It's a very important one right there on the issue of affordability. JJ, who is JJ865 on Twitter, says scarcity and costly plots of land compounded with costly building materials, yet housing demand was on the rise. It's a great concern. We'll take a look at the effects or what is actually causing the housing to actually be expensive. We look at those particular factors, and I also see that the purchasing power of Rwandan franc has depreciated fast over time, thereby making good quality housing unaffordable. We look at the issue of exchange rate and all that. There's a lot that you're saying right here, and we'll definitely be able to look at that. Richard Quisera says, how can players in the housing industry meet the growing need for affordable homes? And of course, he's urging you not to miss this conversation. We are live across all our social media platforms, including YouTube. Let me now introduce our panelists who are seated right here with me here in studio so that we can be able to kickstart this conversation. I'm here with Engineer Leopold Uwimana, who is the AG, Head of Department Social and Affordable Housing at the Rwanda Housing Authority. Thank you for making time.
Thank you.
Asante sana. Also with us is Papias Kazawadi, President, Federation of African Engineering Organizations. Thank you, Mr. Papias, for joining us.
Thank you, Anand.
And also with us is John Mugisha. He's the Chairperson, Institute of Real Property Valuers. Thank you for making time on the program.
Thank you for having me.
And like I said earlier on, Mickey Padway, who is the Board Chair and CEO, CFA Housing, is also joining us all the way from the United States of America. I'm hoping that the sound has been fixed, and probably we'll be able to continue having you on the program. Now, let's kickstart this conversation. And I want to I want us to start from the most basic part, especially concerning what I've also read on the Twitter wall or the magic wall right there on the issue of affordable housing. What is affordable housing? According to who? Affordability, sometimes most people say it's relative. What you can afford, I may not be able to afford. And so what is affordable housing? Who even sets the standards to be able to say, now this is affordable housing? Does it even target? And also, how do we ensure that we follow up to ensure that that particular targeted person is indeed experiencing this thing called affordable housing? I want to start with you, Engineer Leopold, from where you sit at the Rwanda Housing Authority. Just tell me like a 2-year-old person, what is affordable housing, first of all?
Thank you, Eugene. The way affordable housing is conceived here in Rwanda, it's a program that looks after low and middle income people on how they can access decent housing. So starting from the way the houses are constructed and the way are financed. So that's how we look at affordable housing program here in Rwanda. And the government has also set some limits. For example, right now, affordable house is a house which costs not more than 40 million francs.
40 million?
40 million francs.
That's affordable housing?
Correct.
For who?
For who? Someone or a household which earned below 1.2 million francs per month.
What about that person who earns 500, 200,000, 50,000? Will they not ever own a house? Are they not part of those who are targeted for affordable housing?
1.2 is a maximum, but below it depends on housing cost. So they can access from the lower limit to the upper limit of 1.2 million. So that's a household income. You may have 2 and more people in a household which can contribute to facilitate them to buy house.
Interesting. And I think maybe, let me now bring in Papias. I think from where you sit at the Federation of African Engineering Organizations, especially when we talk about affordable housing, try to make sense for us in terms of what you consider to ensure that people who actually deserve to actually own a home, I think everybody deserves to own a home. Someone needs to be able to say, I'm able to actually own a home. What do you consider to ensure that they are actually part and parcel of whatever planning that you do from the engineering organization?
Thank you very much. First of all, with the engineering perspective, we do believe that affordability is different from country to country, depending on their income and their standards.
Yes.
But what we cannot ignore as well is the standard of what you call an affordable. Affordable house must be safe, first of all. Safe in a sense that it has to have the structural integrity, so that people who will stay in that house are not standing at a risk. Secondly, the house must be sound. Sound in a sense that it has to be fit, to meet the requirements of fit for purpose. Meaning that if it is a residential house that you are in, it must create some comfort. It must have, so that even the people who live in it enjoy staying in it. Then there is another component of sustainability. Sustainability today, how it is perceived, especially with resilient infrastructure, the house must be energy efficient. In that, electricity in it, the fittings that you put must be energy efficient. The plumbing system and the mechanical systems must be energy efficient. The water that you have to have the fittings that can make it or bring that affordability to people. Because if you don't control that, it means you may call, or business people might say, yes, this is meeting the standards. And we have experienced it here, even in Kigali, where you go to buy an electric bulb, the next day it is down.
Right.
Where you fix the water tap, it can't live for 3 years when you have borrowed money for 10 years, and yet you are to replace every 1 year, every after 6 months. So the components on the engineering perspective, you must consider the 3 S's that I have talked about.
Interesting, Professor, that you say that. And for some of us, as we even now move to John Mugisha, who's, with the Institute of Real Property Valuers, you seem to be telling us the components that actually now put a cost to this particular house. I want us to first make sense of the aspect of affordability. What is affordable housing, and how do we ensure that no one is left behind on this very important right, a shelter that is decent, that is dignifying the people living within it? And probably, Mugisha, you can just come in on this particular aspect before I bring in Mickey.
Yeah, thank you. It's a very important question. What is affordable housing? In my opinion, there are 2 parameters that determine the affordability of housing. One is the cost related to building a house, and also the income of a household that aims to own a house.
Yeah.
So if the cost of building a house is high compared to the income of a household, then that housing is unaffordable.
Yeah.
So it is affordable when a household which earns an income that is median in the standards of a specific country, and maybe those below that median, if they can afford to either buy or build a house or rent a house, then in that case, it is affordable.
And that's how you look at it from an affordable perspective. Mickey, you've been listening through this particular conversation. I hope you have been. I don't want us to risk having some of our viewers who started off with us dropping off because they're saying this is not my conversation, because what they're calling affordable, to me, it's not affordable at all. And they're feeling that maybe the picture of affordability is not what they had expected it to be. You are a player within the people who actually are developing houses that are called affordable homes, affordable houses right here in Rwanda. Who do you target? How do you ensure that it is actually indeed affordable, not from the words, but also in action? When people are now going to their pockets, they're really feeling that indeed this is affordable for me.
Yeah. So you asked, what did
Oh dear. Mickey, we'll need to fix the sound. Could you try, when you can, get some earpiece and then see if you can be able to put the earpiece, and then we'll be able to come back to you. The technical team, kindly try while we're offline with Mickey to try and make sure that her sound is perfect. I'll come back to the studio, Engineer Leopold. There's still lack of satisfaction on the aspect, because based on what I saw from the tweets that came in earlier, even when we were starting this, before we even started this conversation, a lot of people was feeling like a lot of them are left out, especially when it comes to, this affordability aspect. Talk to me a bit about what is influencing the cost of these homes, because when we come to Rwanda, we understand that it was in 2020, $150 million were actually approved to fund Rwanda Housing Finance Project. These were supposed to actually help, in subsidizing in one way or another the issues around affordable housing. How far have we gone with this? What is the reality on the ground when it comes to, this money having cushioned Rwandans who want to own houses at an affordable rate?
When this money was brought here in Rwanda, was to help people accessing finance. So, initially, before this fund was put in place, people were borrowing at around 18% interest rate. But now people who wish to have a house can borrow and pay interest rate of 11%.
From 18 to 11?
Correct.
Still double digit. It might still be high.
This is a double digit, but it's a start. It's a starting. So we are pushing towards the sustainability of the program, of affordable housing, where whenever money will be obtained, probably single digit will be achieved. But this is a starting point. You know, I was talking about 18%, which was a normal loan in interest rate, but now we are at 11. So, and there are more than 3,000 people who have benefited to this program so far. So it's a good step. It's a good step that we are working on, and we are trying to improve and bring more people in this program, more especially the developers.
Yeah, you've spoken about the interest, and that points us to lending. Meaning we're talking about those who have the lending power, or who can be able to go to the financing institutions and get access to the money to be able to take a mortgage. Talk to me about where is the space or the place of those who cannot be able to actually go for this kind of lending. We're talking about those who are probably living within spaces that are low income people who cannot be able to afford that. Where does the Rwanda Housing Authority leave them in the space or in the place of also being able to own a decent house or a home?
Eugene, accessing affordable housing has two parts. So one is ownership. So we are also working on rental housing. So not everyone will be able to buy a home, but we are also going to provide a housing stock where people can rent. So, we, as the Rwanda Housing Authority, we are also in charge of social housing. So there are people who need housing, who are accessing housing for free. That's what you have seen in many IDP model villages that were developed here in Rwanda. In all districts, there are different IDP model villages. So people get those houses for free. So the government looks at people with who are vulnerable. There are people who are displaced due to
natural disasters.
Yes. So as you have seen recently, there are some people, more people who need housing, around 12,000. So it's a program which covers social housing and affordable housing. Affordable housing in terms of ownership and rental.
Okay, interesting. Papias, people point fingers and say these engineers are the ones who are actually increasing the costs of how the end product will look like, because there is, they are pushing their problem onto us. You've been in a situation where someone gives you a quotation and they put all their problems in that quotation so that they can fix all their challenges in their house. They want to buy a house from you, they want to buy a car, they want to school all their kids on just one project. Try to defend yourself, because they say you are the engineers who actually are, pushing the burden to the common mwananchi when it comes to the cost of these houses.
Thank you, Eugene. That question is very broad. I'm just going to answer it my way because I will give my opinion. For me, I think the cost of housing is not really caused by the engineers. In fact, engineers have a very small part to play when you look at what makes the cost of the house. The cost of a house is made by the materials. You will find that the materials, the engineering aspect, in most cases, it does not even account for 10%. To big projects, sometimes is even less than that amount. So the material cost is due to several factors. First of all, we don't have industries that manufacture those materials. Most of the materials, especially in Rwanda, are imported. With importation today, Ukraine issues, COVID matters, cost went up so much. So you buy the iron bars, the cement, the what, all those major components of the what that makes house affordable are imported in Rwanda. What I would say on this, is that engineers, in my opinion, are not properly utilized, or they are not given enough challenge. Because we do understand that engineering is about creating and solutions to problems.
Yeah.
But here we are in a situation where engineers are always looked at as employees. They are not given opportunities to innovate and create.
By who? Who do you want to give you that? By Leopold?
Yes, sometimes the environment is not that conducive. Certain policies are not properly defined. Because, for example, on the aspect of materials, there must be a clear policies indicating how the innovation and creativities would come from small scale to large scale in producing materials. But here you can find a situation, for example, I give an example, the blocks, the adobe blocks that are commonly available in Rwanda. It is, I think, this year, if not last year, where the standard has been able to be developed. Now, this country is more than 50 years. That material has been there. Instead of creating an environment to innovate and improve that material based on what we have in abundance, people have been blocked and stopped from using that material for all those years. It's only now, after establishing the standard and procedures to apply it, now people have to go back again to study. Now you can see the policies and regulations created barriers for that innovation and improvement for a better, affordable house. That is only one. There are several others. We don't have industries that make tiles, and yet we have clay as a raw material. We don't manufacture gypsum, and yet we have limestone as a raw material. We don't deal with the tin or the steel, because they have whatever is exported as a raw material, then we again re-import. So I think the environment is not that conducive to enable the engineers transform the discoveries of science into solving the social economic problems.
Interesting, Papias. I'm going to come to you, Mugisha, but also I'll also hear Engineer Leopold to just rebuttal what you just said right there. Let's try and see one more time with Mickey. Mickey, a lot has been said right here, and I'll just quickly sum up in just a few. One, we wanted to understand affordable housing, affordable according to who, and targeting who, and how do you ensure that indeed affordability is felt from the deepest part of the pockets of that person who it is targeting. Number two, we're also looking at what are the factors that are actually causing the houses not to be as affordable as expected. We've heard from Papias, who's the president of Federation of African Engineering Organization. He says that it is not us to blame. The policies or the environment is somehow not conducive for us to be able to do these things and deliver to you houses that are affordable, because most of the products that we use are actually mostly imported, and so that cost ends up being pushed back to the end user. What is your take on this? Because you are a developer yourself. You've been pushing and also doing affordable housing right here in Rwanda. Talk to us a bit about all those things that I've just tried to sum up in a bit.
Sure. So CFA Housing is actually the only affordable housing development company that was able to actually complete 52 units during COVID. And even though not all of them were quote unquote affordable, a good portion of them were. So according to the Rwandan housing guidelines, affordable housing is one that is less than 40 million Rwandan francs. And I'm not going to beat around the bushes. That is definitely a push. And everything that was said, I didn't hear everything that was said, but the arguments have been around for quite a while that, Rwanda is landlocked, materials are hard, they're tough to come by, very often we have to import cement and other very basic raw materials because we're priced out of the market or we are crowded out of the market, so to speak. And so that's all those issues, and I'm sure the engineers can speak better than I can, to the integrity of the material. But I can say that at C4 Housing, we definitely had tremendous challenges building within that price range. Having said all that, we were successful in doing that, and I think we need to change the discussion around affordable homes in the sense that everybody wants affordable homes, ones that are at least ready for whole family. You're not going to be able to build a family house, especially not a house. If anything, it's going to be a part of a multi-dwelling units. It's not going to be a house. It's not going to be 3, 4, 5 bedroom home that is going to be suitable for a whole family at 40 million Rwandan francs. Not with all the requirement, not if you want this house to be sustainable and water resistant and for that house to be able to stand there after 20 years so that you can qualify for a mortgage. All those things do not work hand in hand with the large dwelling units. So we need to change the parameter as far as our experience is concerned. We were able to produce or to build affordable homes, but they were small. They were 1 and 2 bedrooms. They were starter homes. They were for single people, for starting families. That's the first step into home ownership. And that's what, affordable homes, that's where the target should be at.
Interesting, Mickey. So if the cap has been put at 40 million, you as a developer, you're saying it's going to be difficult for us to actually develop such homes for that kind of costing, considering all that we have to go through to be able to get the materials to be able to develop this. What is it that you want from the regulators? What is it that you want from policymakers in order for you to even bring that cost down and say, look, you put in cap at 40 million, we're going to develop houses that can even be bought at 10 million or 5 million,
5 or 10 million homes, I doubt very much. You'll see. I mean, that's not what we're targeting, clearly. And I don't think you can buy you can build a 5 or 10 million Rwanda franc home in Kigali with land costs where it is, unless the government gives you the land. So at C4, we bought our land. We were able to raise the money and build, the homes. A family home detached at 40 million Rwanda franc, one that a bank will be willing to write a mortgage on, I would say non-existent. And you could see that we had homes that were built for 25 million, right? And they were washed in the floods. So you definitely don't want that to happen. So we have to adjust the concept. Those homes, whatever is going to be below 40 million, is going to be smaller. But even 40 million is a stretch. Don't forget, the 40 million threshold was determined almost 2 years ago, over 2 years ago. Since then, during which we had COVID, during which we had inflation, during which we had supply shocks, all of this should put, we have to have like an adjustment, almost like a yearly adjustment, according to the cost of living and inflation, as to what and to the cost or the price of affordable homes.
Interesting.
And let me just say one more thing.
Yeah.
We cannot build affordable homes without government infrastructure support and government tax incentives and break and custom exemptions. There is, and we do have those. Our development has been approved for government support. We're waiting on funding any day now. We are part of the MBRP program, which is the Manufacture and Build to Recover program, which offers tax incentives and custom incentives as well, exemptions. So all those things are crucial. Without them, there is no affordable homes.
Interesting. Engineer Leopold, we've had a lot of pushback in the sense that, hey, not us. We are not the ones who are actually making these houses not to be as affordable as expected by the Mwananchi. And so I want to push back this to you at the Rwanda Housing Authority, especially on the issue of incentives. We heard from Bwana Papias, who actually said, look, if we are importing most of these products, raw materials, then what do you expect in terms of the end product? We've also heard from Mickey, who says, look, we need incentives. And if the incentives are not there, then please just rest assured that the cost will not be as low as you'll be able to expect. Let's talk about the subsidies. A zero sum, or is it something that can be able to help? And what are those incentives that are there that you feel developers who are watching us tonight can be able to borrow and be able to pick up from there to make housing, affordable housing, a reality?
Yeah, it's totally impossible to achieve low-cost housing without incentives. So that's a reality. Here in Rwanda, the incentives are different. So our friends said about the value chain of housing, talking about the cost of materials. We know that all the materials, most of the materials, mostly finishing materials, come from abroad. So when you are developing a affordable housing project or a low-cost housing project, so all import duties are waived. So it means you bring the materials at cheap prices. So in addition to that, there are some other incentives that are provided, like infrastructure on site. We lay power lines, water lines, sewage system, and roads. So all those are things that are provided by the state to make sure that the housing cost is not increased.
Would you explain to Mr. Papias that he leaves this show tonight feeling satisfied as to why we are importing tiles, yet we have clay, for example?
Yeah, we know that our country is open to all investors. We are always calling up on investors to come and invest in production plants. So, and there are many developers who have started producing some construction materials, even modern materials, to be they are being produced here. So it's a starting point. So things are keep moving and moving towards a positive direction. So some people say it's impossible to achieve 40 million francs, as Mickey said. We have to look at where we started from. This 40 million was decided due to from the idea from different investors and who are key players in affordable housing production. So 40 million is a house. You may be developing many houses. Let's say if you are developing 1,000 houses, housing units, we don't request you to make all the 1,000 houses to be affordable. What we need is to have at least 40 housing units per each hectare. So if you are developing a high density project, let's say 160 housing per hectare, only 40 will be affordable, and the rest 120 can be sold on market rates. So in that way, you can make a cross-subsidization. You increase some cost on market rate housing, and you reduce some cost on affordable houses.
We'll come back to probe that, because it's a bit, it's ish, especially if you do that, and we're looking at, needing to do 5.5 million dwelling units, by 2050. And we'll come to probe that a bit. But let's bring in Mugisha here. Mugisha, from where you see it from a valuation perspective, and this whole conversation about affordability, Mickey mentioned a lot of factors that have actually pushed the costs. We talk about COVID, we talk about the inflation, we talk about the Ukraine war. how do you come into this conversation, especially when it comes to the valuation perspective and considering all those factors, while still capturing the aspect of making this home still affordable for those who really still need it? Because even them, they're affected. It's not just the developer who's actually affected by these factors.
Yeah, thank you. Like my colleagues have said, a number of factors that affect the affordability of housing. And from the valuation perspective, we look at the supply and demand.
Yeah.
How many housing units are on the market?
Yeah.
So if there are few developers on the market who are supplying housing units, then automatically they are going to be expensive and therefore unaffordable to a certain category of the population. But again, another fact is land. Land is expensive. So the cost of acquiring land is high. And this is also caused in one part by the way we develop our housings. We have this horizontal development. And yet we have a population of younger people who annually need to have their own homes. So that coupled with the scarcity of land in our country, it adds to the cost of acquiring land. So the supply and the land acquisition costs make housing expensive. So when we are doing valuation, we look at how many are on the market and how many are the buyers on the market. So so this is a conversation we have been holding at our institute, and we deemed it important to bring together the players in this area, the civil engineers who elect the houses, the developers who invest their money in producing housing units, but also the financiers, because financing is one of the factors that affect the cost of housing. If the interest rate is high, then it is going to cost much for somebody who wants to get a mortgage loan. So those are different factors that when we are analyzing affordability of housing, we have to look at it from a holistic approach, so that all those things are considered, and also the government policies are favoring that. Like said earlier by Engineer Leopold, Rwanda has that subsidization policy to make sure that the cost at least goes lower by subsidizing the infrastructure, because it is one component that adds to the cost of housing. So we have a conference next week where all these people, all these players in the real estate industry will come together to discuss these issues. One of them being affordable housing, but also sustainable real estate finance. How can we sustainably finance the housing development and the commercial buildings, but also the property management. We have a lot of buildings being developed. So the property management subdiscipline of real estate is growing. ICT, information technology, how is it helping us in those subsectors to make sure that there is efficiency, but also there is an easy flow of information? Somebody who wants to buy a property can easily get information about where is the property to buy.
Interesting. And I'll come to you, Mickey, but before I do, let me talk to Engineer Leopold, especially on the issue of land, because I am aware that there's a senior City of Kigali official who actually once committed that the City of Kigali had committed to buy and secure land banks every year to enable the development of infrastructure, including affordable housing projects, expropriated residents, and others. And looking at the issue of land, being a contributing factor to the cost of the end product, it was anticipated that with this land bank that is actually done every year, the cost would actually go down. How far has this gone? I mean, because there are those basing on the feeling like this hasn't been, felt in terms of the costs that are in the market today.
Yeah, it's true. The city of Kigali and the other districts have been buying land to attract investors to put more houses on those land.
Yeah.
In the city of Kigali, for example, they have more than 100 hectares that was bought for that purpose. Even for us in the Rwanda Housing Authority, we also have around 50 hectares in the city of Kigali that we bought to attract investors to build more affordable housing on that land.
So, have they all been developed as of today?
Not yet.
So investors are shying off, or they're not seeing any business in there?
Yeah, they know they are being called on to come and bring and put more houses on that. So there are some pockets of that land which are already developed, but also the other part are going to be developed.
Yeah.
Previously, I forgot also to mention that land will also be part of incentives that are going to be provided by the government. So to help the developers to construct cheap houses.
Right. So when you provide this land, what is usually the expected cost of this house after that land problem has been taken away from the developers' problems? Still 40 million?
Yes, that's 40 million that was that we was initially put in place. It was not considering the cost of land.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Mickey, I mean, I know you're there, and I want us to talk a bit about the future of real estate, especially with this changing, global space and the technology coming in. Of course, we're talking about greening and sustainability in this particular space, but for someone who's listening, they're starting to feel that probably these are the things that are making it difficult for me to own a house, because at the end of the day, if we're going that direction, there's a lot more extra that needs to be put on this house for me to finally afford it. And it now seems like a burden for some. I mean, talk to us a bit about how real estate will look like in the next few years to come, especially looking at the digitization and, the green, sustainable conversation around real estate.
Yeah, so when we started working or conceptualizing how our development was going to look like, our initial thought was, to put solar, to perhaps do biomass. We had all these great ideas. However, when pencil was put to paper, those ideas did not pan out. So we have a conflicting, like a pull and push factors, right? On the one hand, we would like, affordable houses to be sustainable, to be green, to be cost effective. But the initial capital costs are very high. So that's the conflict here. It's very expensive for the developer. We cannot get our money back from our initial investment. On the other hand, if we do provide solar and all these things, it is cheaper for the ultimate buyer, for the person who buys their house. So there's two conflicting forces here that we have not been able to reconcile. So another thing is, again, I can speak, mostly on our experience, is that we built a multi-dwelling development, and at this point, most buyers are not aware or starting to be aware they should take into account additional costs that involve in buying such units, and that's HOA fees, which is homeowner association, which is basically shared fees amongst all tenants in the development, utilities, cleaning of the new shared spaces, and so on and so forth. So all these expenses are extra. Those are all encompassed in the HOA fees that are, they're supposed to be paid monthly, and then we assess an annual fee for extraordinary expenses such as cleaning or fixing the water treatment plant if it needs fixing, and one-off type of expenses. All these things add to the cost.
What would you say as a developer yourself, from what we had earlier when we were starting the conversation, that someone was saying, look, these developers, what they do, they are targeting diaspora, they're targeting those with the money, and they forget about those who are low-income earners. I mean, defend yourself. I mean, how do you respond to such a person who probably has this kind of feeling?
So I won't defend myself. I am targeting diaspora for sure. And as Leopold noted, that you cannot build affordable housing development like 100% affordable homes. That's not doable. So you have to have some type of a mix. Leopold gave the example of 40 units per hectare, and you can possibly build 160 units per hectare, which is in which case you build, at least 7 or 8 floors, and that has its own challenges. You need an elevator. An elevator is expensive. Who's going to share the cost of the elevator? So, there's always some hurdle that needs to be addressed at some point. So yes, do we target diaspora? Absolutely. Do I target low-income people? Absolutely. Those who can buy affordable homes at less than 40 million, they're buying our 1 and 2 bedroom units. They qualify for 11% mortgages from RRJ through BRD because they make between certain income threshold, which make them suitable for those mortgages.
Right.
So we target both. Both ends of the income spectrum.
Interesting. I want us to now take this 10 minutes that are remaining for us to just also quickly look into the comments that are coming in, but also, Engineer Leopold, I also want to touch on what Mugisha mentioned, that there will be a sitting here in Kigali, bringing together various players within the real estate space to try and converse around all these things. And I want to ask you that to try and explain to us, we've had a lot of such kind of sittings, exchange programs to try and understand how to, borrow good practice and sort out certain issues. From where you sit as Rwanda Housing Authority, I would also like to hear from you. Why would you feel that such sittings would not be yet other talking shops where people just come, we talk, and then when we go, we are again isolated and working in silos instead of working together? But as you respond to that, Willie Rukundo is asking, may the Rwanda Housing Authority official explain what policies are in place to help real estate developers where to get loan at very low interest rates for buying land and even construction? Then how is a potential home buyer facilitated to access loan at very low interest rates? Not 11%, please. This is what he says.
Yeah, I was saying that affordable housing program is still new. It was brought in place due to housing scarcity.
Yeah.
To help low and middle income to access homes.
Yeah.
There are many conferences which take place here. We learn from other countries how they do in terms of social housing and affordable housing.
Yeah.
We have a program called African Union for Housing Finance. We learn from them. We know how other countries are financing affordable housing projects, both developers and beneficiaries. We have also another South African organization which also make more researches in affordable housing in Africa, how Africa can develop affordable housing itself.
Yeah.
So those are things that we put together. We look at the theories from different countries, and we try to customize.
So that's what you'll be doing at this forum?
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
And the support facilitation, just in under a minute, because we have only 5 minutes to go. Kundo asked about the support for those who actually need, low interest rates from Rwanda Housing Authority. Is there anything that you do for them?
Yeah, coming to achieving single digit is still a big problem here. But with the Development Bank of Rwanda, BRD, they are trying to help real estate developers to access cheap loans. It's something which is continuous, depending on where money is coming from, depending on too much deposit, which can be obtained from different sources. Probably single digit
will be achieved.
Will be achieved.
Not 11%. Papias, I mean, why would we think that such a sitting would not be a talking shop? And then when we go back, we are just going to be business as usual?
I don't think so. Usually, when such people meet, a sitting like this one, we expect to have people with different experiences, sharing with the people who are local in Rwanda, and through that, new ideas can be created to improve on what we already have. So I have never seen and taken this type of sitting as a sitting shows. Usually there is a lot of gains in terms of skills gained and the network built. And actually after that, that's where you can even hear of a new project being born for the new developers, more especially that we have heard that the city of Kigali and the RHA have about 150 hectares that this time will be given to developers, implying that the cost of 40 million will still be maintained. Moreover, there are also incentives provided in terms of taxes. So I really feel it's an opportunity for anyone, either the buyers and even developers and sellers.
John, the future of real estate from a digitization perspective and congregations that will bring players who are actually looking within this particular space, how will that impact that person who's still looking for affordable housing and they're feeling that it's not there?
Yeah, thank you. Digitization or artificial intelligence, which is a component of which is machine learning. It brings together large data, and the processes the data in a very short time, so you can get information that you need. But again, also the designs, the design of a housing unit can also contribute to the reduction of the cost. So there are different designs, there are different concepts that are being developed all around. So these people who will come from about 11 countries in the East African region, attending our conference that will take place on 25th May, that is Thursday next week. So we are going to share those experiences. What has worked in Uganda? What has worked in Tanzania? What has worked in Ethiopia? And then what has worked here in Rwanda? So we share those experiences and how is digitization is driving all those practices.
Interesting. Miki, beyond just sharing experiences, as a developer yourself, should we expect a significant cut in costs, especially with AI, simplifying things now, or we should still expect high costs despite the ease of doing things through technology? The future of real estate as far as digitization is concerned, that's what I'm asking, just in under a minute.
So, well, I'm the eternal optimist, so I would say there's always hope, and there's always room for technology to make things more efficient and cheaper. So we are working on different solutions to affordable housing, especially in the material space. And we are hoping to be able to offer better product going into the future, definitely.
Right. Let me finish off with this comment. Also, Habiba Wase says, nobody is going to talk about the unreasonable delays of getting the construction authorization from the district authorities. Indeed, the policies restructure is on a higher need. What would you say, Leopold, on this? Because it's a very urgent thing. The delays in getting construction authorization, just real quick.
Normally, the maximum time to get a construction permit is 30 days. Maybe that time can be extended due to some corrections which can be requested by the city authorities. So that's why even Engineer Kazawadi was talking about. we need sustainable houses. We need strong houses. We need all functional services to be put in place in a sustainable way. So those are things that may delay or drag the project to start implementation.
Okay. Makara Umwenga, says, Anangwe, hope you're well. Ask Leopold to tell us the lowest salary for the people who are able to access the affordable houses. Lowest salary?
There is no lowest salary. We have even some companies which deal with the people who have the lowest salary. So I'm telling you, currently we have a house which can be put on rural settlement, which can cost around 3 million. So even local teachers in the rural areas can access that houses and be financed through the fund that we have. So we don't have minimum salary at the moment.
Right. Okay. I'm told that we need to leave so that we can create room now for the news that is coming up. But what I understand is that this is a conversation that does not end. It cannot end in this particular four-walled building and house, of course, but it's a conversation that will continue on. And when it ends within these four walls, we actually continue the conversation across our digital platforms. So all you need to do is quickly just jump on our Twitter handles at Eugene Anangwe. The hashtag is the Summit RW. Let's keep talking right there. All our panelists are still online, and so they'll be able to still respond to some of your questions that could be coming in that particular space. So keep talking to us, and we'll be able to still have this conversation going on. If we did not meet your expectations, we sincerely apologize, and we hope that next time, same time on Wednesday, 9 p.m., we will be back and be able to do even much better. As always, I'm Eugene Anangwe. Goodbye for now.